Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Dr. Jamie the Nurse. Today we're going to talk about burnout and compassion fatigue in nursing and ways that we can prevent it. I'm going to give you 5 strategies to incorporate now to help protect yourself from developing compassion fatigue and burnout. So this story needs to start at the beginning and how I had come upon the subject of compassion fatigue and burnout in the first place and why I became so interested in this. So this is a personal story and I will share it with you because maybe some of you can relate to this. And before I do, please like my channel and subscribe. I've shared this story with my students over the years, and it's kind of one of those stories where I feel like it's really meaningful and it can have an impact on others. And after I tell the story, I always feel a little bit vulnerable because it was quite a significant time in my life when I experienced compassion fatigue and burnout. So I ended up doing my doctorate project on creating a class for students to make them aware of compassion fatigue and burnout, the signs and symptoms, the causes, and ways to prevent it, with the hopes to start them out on the right path when they graduated from nursing school. So I became a nurse when I was 32 years old, and I was kind of behind financially. And nursing is one of those jobs where you work 3 12-hour shifts, and it's easy to get a second job. So I easily was able to work 5 12-hour shifts in a week, and it allowed me to, pay off loans and save up to buy a house and all the things that I had been wanting to accomplish. I started off as a nurse in the ER, and I absolutely love the ER. The ER is definitely where I'm meant to be as a bedside nurse. And I worked, my 3 12-hour shifts. I wanted to learn everything I could. I went to TNCC. I became a CEN. I became relief charge. I started picking up per diem jobs so that I could work in other places. The ER where I started at was not a trauma center, and I wanted to work in trauma. So I got jobs at trauma nurses or at trauma centers, and I just worked all the time. One of the things that I noticed while I was working as an ER nurse is I loved the adrenaline. I loved helping people. I loved just working with people from my community. Things would make me sad, and I would think about them when I was off work, and I just kind of thought that was normal, and that kind of made me a good nurse, right? I care about my patients. I kept thinking, well, over time I'll develop that thicker skin, that some nurses have, and things won't affect me like they affect me now. Fast forward about 5 years of being an ER nurse, and I was now working in the ER, and I also worked as a critical care transport nurse on an ambulance. And I was starting to realize that I wasn't getting the same feeling about work anymore. It was really hard for me to go to work. I didn't necessarily want to take care of my patients like I had before. I was getting depressed and having a hard time at home. And then one day I just felt like I needed to quit my job that minute. Which was not okay because, I had been working a full-time job. Bills depended on this, but I called home and said to my husband, I want to quit my job today. And surprisingly, he said, okay, good idea. So things must have been getting bad at home for him to agree like that. I actually, in my mind, was going to quit that day. But my coworkers, thankfully, were like,
okay, take it easy. You need to give 2 weeks notice. This is your primary nursing job and you're going to need this for a reference. And
so yes, I put in my 2 weeks notice that day, which was still a crazy, not in character for me type of thing to be doing. And luckily for me, I had the ambulance company that I was working for, and I remember just basically lying on the gurney in the back of the ambulance, crying a lot and wondering what I was going to do now, because I felt like I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to nursing, and it was the weirdest thing. So of course, I kind of thought I was having a nervous breakdown. That's what I thought. At this point, I was like 36, 37 years old, and I just thought, oh, I'm having a nervous breakdown. Is that what happens? Midlife crisis, nervous breakdown? As I laid on the gurney in the back of the ambulance, I decided that I couldn't give up nursing because it was my livelihood, but I did need to do something different. So I had an associate degree in nursing at that time, and I thought, well, I'll need to go back to school and get my master's, and then maybe I'll be like a diabetic educator or an educator of some sort. And so that was my plan. So I applied back at a hospital, but in a different department than ER, because I just figured, well, maybe if I'm in a different department, I'll do better. And so I went in, I worked in a recovery room for a while. And during that time, I did go and get my master's degree. And while I was in the master's program, I started thinking about nursing in a different way and thinking about the nurses that I encountered, and how one thing that I had noticed is that nurses didn't always appear to have the healthiest lifestyles, and yet we know better. And I started kind of researching why this was happening. And I came across things like shift work and, night shift and all of these things. And then I stumbled upon compassion fatigue in nursing and the detrimental effects that it has on us as nurses. We're almost like wounded healers. And as what I found out, compassion fatigue, burnout, and vicarious trauma are common occurrences in helping professions. They can lead to detrimental effects in a person. And it was like this light went off. I was so relieved, like that's what happened. That's what happened to me. I want to talk a little bit about the differences between compassion fatigue, burnout, and vicarious trauma, so that you can kind of know the difference. And if you guys want me to make another video really diving into this topic, please write it in the comments and I will. But this is just going to be kind of a snapshot of those terms and what they mean. So compassion fatigue is, but in the helping professions, we are giving of ourselves to our patients or whoever we're caring for constantly, and we're not replenishing that, and we get depleted. So I kind of coined this little analogy of it when I think about DIC. Again, I work with nursing students, so in order for them to sort of grasp what this is spiritually for us nurses, it equates to DIC in the vascular system, so disseminated intravascular coagulopathy. Yes. And so what that means, if you who are watching this are nurses. In DIC, let's say we'll go with an example of our patient has sepsis. And then because they have sepsis, they're getting these little micro injuries throughout their vascular system. Clotting factors go to work to plug up and mend all of the micro injuries that we have throughout our vessels. But unfortunately, in doing that, they use up all of their clotting factors, and the patient ends up getting DIC and ultimately has bleeding issues or bleeds out. So that's what happens to us spiritually when we have compassion fatigue. We're giving ourselves to our patients little by little until we have no compassion left. And we're literally out of compassion. And it happens rapidly, and it has a sudden onset. And then all of a sudden, these people who suffer from a serious case of compassion fatigue become depressed. They have relationship problems. They lose interest in work, and it hits very suddenly. Burnout, on the other hand, can happen in any profession, But combine burnout with compassion fatigue and you just have this perfect storm. So burnout is more to do with poor management styles, tough work environments, those 12-hour shifts, working on weekends and holidays and not getting, what you need, not having balance with your family. So that can be burnout. That has a gradual onset. You can actually, change departments or talk to your manager and get that schedule that you really need, possibly, if you have a good manager, and the burnout can go away. And then we have vicarious trauma, which is also kind of known as secondary post-traumatic stress disorder. This is common in helping professions because it's the same symptoms like depression and difficulty sleeping and anxiety and startling easily that PTSD gets, but the person who is suffering from vicarious trauma hasn't actually experienced the trauma themselves, but caring for people who have been through these traumas, reading stuff in the chart, can also lead to secondary post-traumatic stress syndrome. So you can see how working in a helping profession is just so hard for us if we're not proactive in preventing it. So we need to do those 5 strategies in order to help ourselves. And again, when I made this class, it was long. It was like 2 hours long. This is more of like a quicker version of that, but I think these will be good tools for you to take. And again, if you want more, let me know and I can do a longer video. But getting good sleep. So how we can get good sleep is sleep on a regular schedule. So if you happen to be night shift, try to stay as much night shift as you can, even on your days off. And you need to have your room cool as you possibly can. I think the target range is like 67 degrees, but 67 degrees, cool, dark, get blackout curtains, get an eye mask, get white noise machines. Those types of things can help you get a good night's sleep. Avoid caffeine, 4 hours or so before your shift. Don't eat before you go to bed, and time your exercise appropriately because if you exercise too close to bedtime, you can actually increase your metabolism. So, okay, you need to eat healthy. So I don't know if you've noticed this yet, and if you're a new grad, you will notice it soon enough, but people love to bring nurses food and treats and chocolates and donuts. Oh, the holiday season, you just can't escape it. Every day in the break room, just boxes of chocolate and donuts. And we're busy. We're running around for 12 hours. You have to bring your own food as much as you can. Because also, what other things happen in the hospital is that the cafeteria sometimes isn't open when you finally get your lunch break. And so then you're just getting stuff from the vending machine, and it's not good for us to not have good food when we're working those 12-hour shifts. So eating healthy, try to mindfully eat. I know that with our culture these days, it's like lunch break, eating on your phone. But if you can put the phone down for 10 minutes, take a breath, mindfully eat your food, that just means that you're like, okay, what am I eating? And how does it feel to be sitting here? And give yourself and your brain that moment to sort of recenter before you go back. Exercise. So we need to incorporate exercise, and any exercise will do. I'm not saying you have to do CrossFit every night after you get off work. But even if you walk around the hospital during your lunch break, or you take the stairs, find something that you enjoy that you can be consistent with. Things like Tai Chi are good. I have yet to try Tai Chi, but I have heard that because you're constantly in motion, your brain isn't allowed to wander. So you're supposed to calm the wandering mind, to give your brain a break. So if you want to try something like Tai Chi, yoga's good too, but yoga, you actually do have the time while you're holding the poses. And so supposedly Tai Chi is better for calming the wandering mind. Another strategy to sort of help yourself rejuvenate and just calm your mind and your spirit is to take a tech break. So this is a challenge that I give my students when I do this lecture, and that is for them to turn off their phone, take off their watch, put it in a drawer somewhere in their room, and then, time it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. See how you do. We are so tech savvy these days with constantly checking our emails and getting text messages. And if you are with a family member and you're having a nice conversation and someone's texting you, it's pulling you away. It's pulling you in that direction. And who knows what they're going to text you? Half the time someone says something that can be upsetting and the mood just changes. So give yourself that tech break. All of these things, when we do them, we need to do them with consciousness so that you're saying to yourself, you know what? I am going to put my phone away for 10 minutes and I'm just going to sit here and really be in the moment with, whatever you're doing. So try the tech break. And then finally, meditation. So meditation is a hurdle that I have dealt with for years because there's so much research on how beneficial meditation can be for us. And yet it really is a hard thing to incorporate. So if you guys are good with meditation or you have, a certain website or method that you do, please leave it in the comments and I'm going to try it because I do try it. And I'll set a timer, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I'll do the meditation where you just sit, concentrate on your breathing. I like to do like a 2-worded phrase like just me or I'm strong or whatever I'm feeling that day. And so with the inhale, just with the exhale, me. And then anytime my mind wanders, I'm like, okay, I acknowledge that thought just came to me, but recenter on just me. It's hard to do. It's so hard to do. It's really good for relieving stress, chronic depression. There's other things that you can do too along the lines of meditation, and that would be like a guided imagery. You can find those on YouTube actually. And then the progressive relaxation, which is where you just, lay in your bed someplace comfortable and feel all of the muscles sort of and the tension from your head to your toes with each breath. So a breath in, what does my face feel like? Try to work on relaxing those muscles. Breathe out. How does my neck feel, chest, and so forth. So those are things that you can try right away. If you try any of these things, or if you have some strategies that you use to, try to prevent burnout and compassion fatigue in nursing, please leave me a comment and I will look into that and I can add that in my next video. Thanks you guys for staying till the end, and I will see you in the next video.